welcome in to Yard Prep. This is a show on the 5 Reasons YouTube channel. You probably already know this if you are here. We are sponsored today. Alf's Got the Hat by Prize Picks. Use code 5, F-I-V-E. Get your initial deposit matched up to $100. You put down 20, they'll give you 20. You put down 100, they'll give you 100. It's really easy, too. That's the thing. Everybody's like, oh, what is this? It's seriously simplified. Okay, use the code 5. Get your initial deposit just rated the number 1 fastest growing sports property in the country last year. And, you can play the NBA stuff there if you want as well. But the Dolphins props are up there. I can tell you that we just did Prize Picks on 5. Myself, David Eversole, David Friedman. And basically, we went conservative with the Dolphins. Under 240.5 passing yards for Teddy Bridgewater. I went over Chase Edmonds' 27.5 rushing yards. I do feel like they're going to need to get the running game going with at least one of them today. I know Eversole played Gesicki over 2 catches. I'm not sure how I feel about that one. And then the Hill and Waddle props, which I've been playing consistently, but neither of these guys are 100% healthy, and the game plan may be a little bit different. But, of course, that's the story today. I mean, the story this week was basically that everybody's eating crow about Tua, although they don't really want to swallow it.
By the way, one last thing on Prize Picks, because everybody keeps asking me. It's a one-time rollover. So they're essentially handing you $100. If you deposit $100, you bet it through, they give you $100. So, in other words, sign up. They're giving you $100.
Right.
This is not a scam. You get it one-time rollover.
It's not like the gambling apps where literally you're rolling over 52 times and you're 52 years older by the time that you can actually withdraw the money. You can actually withdraw the money right away. You're right. So use that code 5, F-I-V-E. Otherwise, you won't get the money. So make sure you're using that code on sign up. All right, I got Eric Radicki. You can follow him at, his name. That makes things really easy. We've got Alfredo Arteaga. You can follow him at Alf_Arteaga or at 3 Yards Per Carry because he's one of the hosts of 3 Yards Per Carry podcast. And it was actually one of your co-hosts who pretty much broke the news on this, Simon Clancy, because the commissioner, Roger Goodell, was giving a presentation overseas. And, of course, Simon lives on the other side of the pond. And he basically indicated before it became public that really the Dolphins didn't really do anything wrong with Tua, which is a story that's kind of an overcast on this game because I think Tua would have been ruled out this week anyway, okay? However, a lot of this is optics and appearances at this stage, and it's to placate people, even though this doesn't seem to apply to any other player in the entire NFL because guys are back on the field 32 minutes later. But it does hang over this game because we don't really know if this is a 1-week trial, Alf, or stint for Teddy Bridgewater, or if it's going to be a 3-week or a 4-week or something like that. But I would assume now that the Dolphins are cleared, even though it shouldn't be this way, that we may see Tua sooner rather than later. So this may be Teddy's chance.
Yeah, and the dead giveaway was yesterday when they did an IR Tua, which means they're definitely going to start him within 3 weeks. Okay, so like the latest you'll see him is 3 weeks from today. Like that would be the latest because they did an IR on him. So they kind of gave it up right there. But this whole process, and it really started on Twitter. Like you got to hand it to Twitter. Twitter's a trendsetter in the sports world for whatever reason, because that's exactly where it started. And then it matriculated its way onto Fox Sports 1 and ESPN, and everybody decided, you know what? Mike McDaniel, the butcher of Broward, we're going to talk about him now all the time. All right. By the way, we could call him that because I'm not going to say where he lives, but it's been confirmed he lives in Broward County now. So he's let's dub him the butcher of Broward. The way they painted this guy all week, all we had was lonely Michael Irvin on one pregame show somewhere in the ether defending the Miami Dolphins and Mike McDaniel. As it turned out, they followed the protocol. And, going forward, and I mentioned this on the podcast, I mentioned this on OnlyFans, I mentioned this on Twitter. This new TKO rule could cause more problems than it solves. Mm-hmm. Because now everybody knows if essentially, not to be too crude about this, if you can knock somebody silly early in the game, they can't return.
Right.
So what's stopping a defensive end, on the rotation, the 4th defensive end in the rotation, to taking a strong run at Tom Brady early in the game? Mm-hmm. We shall see how this plays out. It's in effect today, so we'll see if it gets implemented today.
Unintended consequences. So, Eric, let's get to it because obviously Teddy gets the game today. This has been a dream of his to be a starting quarterback for the Dolphins. I mean, this is a guy who has won in the league, and he's been a part of winning in the league. It's not like he's had nothing to do with the winning. I mean, before he injured his knee, he looked like he'd be a long-term starting quarterback, and then he's bounced around a couple different places. They spent a lot of money on him this offseason to bring him in as a backup. How do you think Mike McDaniel manages the game today?
I thought at times during the Bengals game, there were situations in which I could point out and say, I don't think they trust Teddy like they trust Tua. And I think I'm hoping that's going to change a little bit now that he's got the full 10 days, with Bridgewater to give him a full game plan. Obviously, I don't think that much is going to really be different. Obviously, some of the rollouts that, Tua would go left, I think Teddy will be going right, just to account for the fact that he's a different-handed thrower. But honestly, I don't see the offense looking extremely different. Teddy's a rhythm passer, high completion percentage guy. He's going to keep the chains moving. It's going to be, as long as Hill and Waddle are out there, I'm going to assume that they can move, at least 90% of what they're able to do. So I think it's just going to be disperse the ball, get it to your playmakers quickly, and keep the chains moving.
And if they're going to do that, they're going to need to run the ball, Alf. That's, they've run the ball at times, down the stretch of games to kind of kill games. They've had basically some nice scheming and well-executed blocks and been able to pull one off, but they haven't been able to count on it, right? That's the issue. So do you like one of the backs better than the other at this point? Is there anything they can do to kind of get this moving where we're going to say of this game, okay, they had 27 carries and they picked up 130 yards and it mattered?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think Raheem Mostert is proving quite easily that he's the better back. He's finding more yards than Chase Edmonds is. Frank Smith this week in his availability with the media, he's the offensive coordinator of the Miami Dolphins, although, he's offensive coordinator in quotation marks,
right?
Because Mike McDaniel runs this offense. He was essentially saying, look back at a couple of runs that we had that were called back for penalties. Essentially, he was saying that the two penalties were BS. Mm-hmm. If you look at one, I agree with him, which is the one against the Bengals. Raheem Mostert had a 30-yard run that was called back. Mm-hmm. You add that to his total, he has 100 yards rushing against the Bengals.
Okay.
So, I think they like what's coming about this running game with Raheem Mostert. And I think with Teddy Bridgewater, my partner on 3 yards per carry, Chris Kaufman, had some great stats this week where he was showing how Tua under shotgun and an 11 personnel, Miami Dolphins offense is basically ranked number 1 in every single efficiency category, except the problem is that Mike McDaniel wants to play under center and wants to use 21 personnel. I think that with Teddy Bridgewater, they could get back to being a little bit more in character, a little bit more on schedule, and it might not look as pretty as it did with Tua, and Eric is absolutely right. Mike McDaniel will now call the offense more right-handed than left-handed. You could almost see it. If you watch the All-22 against the Bengals, a lot of plays were called that were Tua plays are left-handed, meaning that the progressions were starting on the left side of the field instead of the right side of the field. So they'll correct all of that. They had 10 days. And before we were on the air, I was telling Eric that Teddy Bridgewater has this fabulous stat. When I heard it, I had to research it because I thought that somebody was putting me on. Teddy Bridgewater is 24-6 against the spread on the road.
Wow.
Okay. Those are numbers that Aaron Rodgers can't put up. Tom Brady can't put up. So that suggests to me a guy who focuses. The last time he was thrust into the situation was in 2017, I believe. And that was with the Saints. That was also a very, very good roster with Drew Brees, oddly enough, in place of Tua. And Drew Brees went down week 2. Teddy came in, and he just ran the offense. They went 5-0 in Drew Brees' absence, and that was a pretty good Saints team. So I think that he'll duplicate the same thing. I think he'll duplicate that. And I think Teddy will play on schedule. It won't look pretty, but it'll be effective.
I think when you look again at what they have to accomplish in this game, to me, you're on the road. Turnovers, they got to keep it under 2. I think they can't afford more than that here. But let's look at the defense also. And Lewis is joining us. Let's look at the defense because The Dolphins have given up some passing yards this year. We know Zach Wilson is incredibly inconsistent at this stage. I don't really know what you're going to get for him, but Xavier Howard has not been the same player this year. As of right now, he's questionable for the game, Eric. We'll see if he plays Byron Jones. This looks like a Will Fuller situation a little bit from last year, like that, when are we going to see him? Okay. And so there's some issues there. We've talked a lot about how Jalen Phillips is close, to really breaking through, but it hasn't happened yet in terms of the actual production. Defensively for the Dolphins, what is necessary today?
Yeah, I think that the Dolphins, just given the weapons that the Jets have and given Zach Wilson's reputation, I could see them playing this both ways, because you can be concerned about the big play if you play man-to-man with Garrett Wilson, Elijah Moore, Corey Davis on the outside for the Jets. They do have a really respectable receiving core. If I were the Dolphins right now, given the fact that Xavier's banged up and you're really thin in the defensive backfield, I would play back and just let Zach Wilson make mistakes, because that's something that he's going to do. He's going to put the ball in a position where if you drop back, he's going to, at least one or two times a game, put the ball in the defender's hands.
Lewis is joining us here. We talked a lot of Tua and Bridgewater at the very beginning. Alf pulled out basically the stat that Bridgewater's against the spread on the road is basically 75% of the time he executes and they cover it. So before we switch back to the defense here, and then I got a couple other things to say, and then we'll pivot to some other directions. What do you want to see from Teddy today?
What I want to see from Teddy today, and apologies if there's background noise, is raining here, but what I want to see from Teddy right now is just execute the offense. Like right now, the way that he even said it himself, but this is the most explosive batch of weapons that he's ever had in his whole career. So if that's the case, and we've seen what you can do even with less weapons, because he's had moments where he's looked fantastic. Like Alfredo, you mentioned it several times when he was with the New Orleans Saints. He looked pretty darn good. So now with the Dolphins, with Mike McDaniel running that offense, I would hope that we get to see some Teddy Bridgewater of the New Orleans Saints variety, but possibly even better. So all he has to do is just get the ball to his playmakers, get it to Jalen Waddle, get it to Tyreek Hill, get it to Mike Gesicki even. Mike Gesicki, he's been pretty much a no-name this whole time, and maybe this is the week where a different quarterback, different tendencies, maybe this is the week that he gets the ball a few times. Who knows? So all they really have to do is just put up some points against this Jets defense. Like, just don't get him killed. And I still feel like this game is very, very winnable. And we can go into the defense in a moment. That's where I'm going to really get into my main points.
Okay. And if you want to play this, by the way, I do want to mention our betting partner. It's betteredge.com, BETTOR edge.com. You can go directly there, use the code 5RSN. That's our product code. So it's different from 5. You can see the app there. It's really cool. It's really easy to manage. Actually, our guy Sean Rochester right now is running a competition for this week. So we recommend that you get on there. You just have to pick 10 games. But also the cool thing about Better Edge is you can find the line that you want. Okay, you're not betting against the book. All right. So this isn't all these rollovers. They'll give you $20. You use that code 5RSN. They'll give you $20. There's not all these rollovers, okay, and all that. And also, again, it's legal. It's legal in 45 states, including the state of Florida, because you're betting against peers. It's like betting against your friends, basically, at the bar. So find the line that you want. It truly is a betting marketplace. Go to betteredge.com. Use the code 5RSN. This number 5RSN. You get $20 off. If you're looking for a place to bet, this is it. I'm telling you, we partnered with all the offshore books. Good luck getting your money. Betteredge.com. I'm still trying to get my money from my Tyler Hero 6 Man of the Year award. Okay, so this is the better way to. He's gonna end up being MVP this year. I'm still not gonna get my money. All right, so let's get to it then. Let's get to the other side of this, and I'll start with you, Lewis, on the defensive side. Eric was talking about it a little bit. They've given up a lot of passing yards this year. We know no Byron. X is hobbled. Pass rush is there at times, but not really getting home. What concerns you? For people who don't really know this Jets team that well, what concerns you today?
Well, right now, and I'm honestly going to be going pretty much against what Eric was saying, is that my concern is that they're going to do what Eric is suggesting, is that they're going to just sit back and let Zach Wilson make throws. I personally feel like, and after speaking with Antoine Staley on my Behind Enemy Lines, which you can check out on 5 Reasons Sports YouTube, by the way, Zach Wilson doesn't like having pressure in his face. he doesn't handle blitzes nearly as well as the likes of Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen and Joe Burrow. Like he's different. He's the kind of guy who, if he ends up getting too much pressure in his face, he's going to start making those mistakes. So all they really have to do, in my opinion, is just kind of keep doing what they're doing. Keep going some zero looks, throw some blitzes his way, get some pressure in his face. And that's when Zach Wilson's going to turn into the Zach Wilson everybody likes to make fun of. So my personal suggestion on defense is that, yeah, you just keep being aggressive. This is the week to do it because this quarterback doesn't like having those blitzes thrown at him.
So, yeah, and that's an interesting point, Alfredo, because I think we looked before the season that the Dolphins would get pressure, like one way or the other. Like they would either get it with their front, which is the idea. They've got a really, obviously, sort of a versatile, dynamic, deep front, okay? And Melvin Ingram's been great. So, like, that addition has worked. And that they might not have to blitz all the time, but really, with the exception of Brandon Jones getting home a couple times, I mean, they have not. What's been the problem?
The problem really is just bad luck and Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. Those are the problems. They had a ton of pressure on Josh Allen. The actual count was 14 quarterback hits. Not all quarterback hits are, created equally, but they had 4 sacks. They had 4 in the grasp. So you add those are 8. All they got to do is tackle, okay? All they had to do was tackle. Against the Bills, that's one thing I do like about Josh Boyer. He came in with a game plan, with a game plan saying, look, screw you, this is what we do. We're going to zero blitz you. Josh Allen started cooking that defense early in the game, and Josh Boyer said, you know what? We're going completely out of character. We're going to lay back. We're going to play a lot of cover 6, and we're going to try to get after him with 4, and it worked. A lot of that could work with Zach Wilson as well, but I also agree with Lewis. They got to mix in some pressure looks, namely on third down. The thing is that when you play on schedule and you try to play on schedule with your backup quarterback and you want to run the ball, you don't want to give up big plays. So I think they have to balance that. So they're gonna have to be opportunistic. It can't be like it was against the Ravens last year where they had 38 blitzes. Like, I don't think blitzing Zach Wilson 40 times today is probably a good idea. Now, if you want to bring some nano blitzes, some 5-man pressures, sure, absolutely. But those zero looks, I wouldn't risk it. The same way Josh Boyer was caught on audio against the Bills when he was saying, look, and you could see that the defense was looking back at him like, man, these guys are moving the ball on us. And Josh Boyer's like, trust me, they will F it up eventually. Just keep doing what you're doing. Sure enough, they got their hands on a lot of balls. That is going to be key. You turn over Zach Wilson, the Jets cannot beat you. What they want to do is they want to run the ball, they want to stay on schedule, and they want to do play action passes out to their weapons. Keep them off of schedule. The way you do that is by turning them over and by getting to the quarterback. They're going to have to get there with 4 and 5 for the most part. But, yeah, do mix in some zero looks, but don't go too crazy on that because that's how they could equalize this game is by getting a big play or two.
One of the interesting things about this game is these two coaches know each other well, too. So we're going to see how that plays out, obviously, from their time together in San Francisco. All right, let's get to the picks here. I'll start. I like the Dolphins today a lot, actually. I do. Because I trust Teddy on the road in this kind of situation. He's had to deal with this before. The playmakers on offense are playing. As soon as the playmakers on offense were playing, I was like, okay, they're winning this game. I just don't think the Jets have enough to exploit them defensively. I think Zach makes a big mistake or two that is critical, and I actually think the Dolphins win this game going away. I also think that, knowing what McDaniel's done with this group, my guess is behind the scenes, he has mobilized them around the idea that everybody hates this franchise and hates him now all of a sudden. Like, when did he become the enemy? Like, everybody loved Mike McDaniel, and now all of a sudden, because everybody want to be a neurologist.
Start making those Broward Butcher T-shirts.
Is he down the street from me? Is he in Rio Vista? I'm guessing so, right? That's where Saban and all the rest of them live. They just all traded a house for a little while, but Saban's wife didn't like the Publix near me because it was too. Well, I'm not going to say it. All right. So anyway, so that's basically that's where I see this game going. I don't see a huge threat today. I really don't. They've played better teams so far, played well, and I don't think. And the other thing to me that's funny about this, Eric, is we've gone from everybody is Tua good enough? Is Tua good enough? Is Tua good enough? Oh, Tua's not playing. They can't win. I mean, this right. Like
ESPN's pregame show today. And look, everybody's like, "Why do you?" Well, it's my job to listen to all these
Yes.
people. All right, okay. So I was watching the ESPN pregame show, and that was their point. Their point is like, I don't know about this offense without Tua.
I mean, before
Well,
everybody was
if you listen to Lavernius Coles, apparently this offense is going to be better without Tua.
Lavernius took a lot of hits too. I'll just say, it was like a Make-A-Wish situation with Tua, and now all of a sudden it's like he's a Hall of Famer. I don't really understand what's happened here. Yeah. I'm sure it'll pivot back as soon as Tua is playing again. Lewis, they win today? Oh, I'm sorry, Eric. Eric, you're first. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, it's all good. It's funny that you mentioned that because one of the first things that I heard ESPN talking about with Teddy was, oh boy, I saw that 65-yard throw from Teddy, and it looked like that was just about as far as he could throw it. Like that's not what they've been saying about Tua all year long. But regardless of that, Teddy's 24-6 against the spread on the road in his career. Shout out to Al for putting us on that stat. That number continues. I think it'll be a little bit closer, 24-20.
By the way, our guys, still get some of the comments here. Manny Chang producing, Renegade 28. I also think Teddy has a better record against the Jets than any other team. I think they rolled today. And from Shake Money as well. We appreciate the comments here and everybody interacting. So, Lewis, they win today?
I believe so. When I did my Behind Enemy Lines with Antoine on, well, technically it was pre-recorded, but either way, I did it 24-17. I think that the Dolphins are actually going to score a touchdown on defense. I think that Javon Holland is going to get a pick six somewhere. Either that or Melvin Ingram's going to scoop up another fumble. Because I really feel like that this game is going to be about Zach Wilson just screwing up too much. Again, quite frankly, I think as soon as he gets some pressure in his face, he's going to start to shut down. This Jets team is not better than the Buffalo Bills. This Jets team is not better than the Baltimore Ravens. And granted, I know Xavier Howard is not doing that great. I know they have some really good weapons on offense as far as the wide receivers go. Garrett Wilson doing pretty well. Corey Davis, CJ Uzuma as a tight end, pretty good as far as all things considered. But I just think that Zach Wilson's not going to be able to keep up. Teddy Bridgewater, for all his being a backup, he was at one point a very decent starter in the NFL. I don't feel like that this Dolphins team has much to worry about. And also the unmentioned factor of all this, do not discount what the MetLife takeover can do for the team's morale. Okay, that spot in the stadium is going to be filled with some of the loudest, most passionate Miami Dolphins fans that you have ever seen in your entire life. I know Big E is there, and Igor is for Dolphins NYC setting this whole thing up is there. All those guys are all going to be there, and they are going to be rocking that stadium all the way through the game. And they are going to hear it. The Jets are going to hear them because every year we hear them on live television. They are so loud that just from that one spot in the whole stadium, we can hear Dolphins fans, let's go Dolphins, all throughout the game. The Jets are going to feel that. I know that they're riding a high because they're doing pretty well so far this season, but the MetLife takeover, man, we talk about the 12th man a lot, right? That was their thing in Seattle for a long time. It was the 12th man. The 12th man is present at MetLife today.
And anyway, it's baseball season in the Tri-County area up there. So, or not Tri-County, that's down here. I'm sorry, the 5-borough, whatever. It's in Jersey, but it's still baseball season up there.
What a game by Jacob DeGrom last night. Just awesome.
Well, there you go. Alfredo, what do you got? They win today?
Yeah, Dwayne Brown is going to start for the Jets today. He's going to start with a torn rotator cuff, okay? Mm-hmm. If you don't know what a torn rotator cuff causes, first of all, it's extremely painful. There's no painkiller you can take to numb that, and, well, that's legal. And what comes with a torn rotator cuff? Dead arm and extreme weakness. If this is not a siren going off in Jalen Phillips' head, look, he's played well, but he has one sack. People like sacks. They like to see that number in the box score. This is where you go get your sacks. The Jets are hurting on the offensive line, namely at the tackle positions. You should get there with 4 or 5. I don't think it's going to be pretty. I don't think we're going to see 70-yard Tyreek Hill touchdowns and 60-yard Raheem Mostert runs, but it'll be nice and steady. Dolphins 23, Jets 10.
Yeah, I think something similar to that. I think they win by a couple touchdowns.
So do we not pick the over on Tyreek Hill then today?
I did not. I did not. I actually went over. I know Raheem has been, the better back so far, but I went over Edmonds 27.5 yards because I just think he'll break one. That'll push him over there. And I went under on Teddy's 240 passing yards, 240.5. I went under. I can tell you that the entire Prize Picks on 5 crew basically played up the Dolphins run game and down the pass game. We'll see. I just think we'll see. They may open it up a little bit more than I'm expecting, but I think there's going to be a little bit more reliance on the running game today. And again, then try to get the big mistake against Zach Wilson, then shorten the game and just get out of there with a win. And we'll see how it goes. All right, for Eric Wadicki, for Alfredo Arteaga, for Louis Sung, catch the post game afterwards. What do we call that one? Oh, final yard, right? Final yard. Also, the extra yard, lots of yards. The extra yard is on tomorrow with Dono and Troy. That's become a real popular show here on the network as well. And if you're a Heat fan, plenty of coverage coming up later today as well. 5 on the Floor is back tonight. Have a good day.
Check out the Spaces.
The Spaces. When is the Spaces? Tell me when the Spaces is.
That's going to be on the Extra Yard Twitter feed. Kay's going to have that around 5:30. She has all the post game availabilities on there, and she'll have the coach speak. She'll have all the players speak, and then she'll have, of course, fans speak.
And if you need more pregame stuff, there's still, of course, the Behind Enemy Lines. There's also
I'm going to put it in one of the lead slots for you, just so people catch it. Catch Behind Enemy Lines with our and it's a friend of the program too. It's Antoine Staley, who's a friend of 5 Reasons Sports and had covered the Dolphins for a couple of years as well. He's now covering the Jets. All right, have a good one, everybody.